suppose you have 2x plus 3 divided by x minus 1 like this. Let's find out what is the x-axis. When y equals to 0, we get 2x plus 3 divided by x minus 1 equal to 0. Since you multiply with this, it becomes 0. We can write 2x plus 3 equals to 0, therefore x equals to minus 3 by 2. So this picture cuts the x-axis at the point minus 3 by 2. So here minus 3 by 2. Let's find out what is the y-axis. Y-axis means x equals to 0. Let's put x equal to 0. It becomes 3 divided by minus 1. So 0 plus 3 is 3 divided by minus 1, which is minus 3. So minus 3 is somewhere around here. So that's where it cuts the x-axis and y-axis. So if you write it as points, the x-coordinate here is minus 3 by 2 and the y-coordinate is 0. The x-coordinate here is 0 and the y-coordinate is minus 3. Now remember, when you have this rational equation where you have x both upstairs and downstairs, we have a concept called asymptote because numbers cannot be divided by 0. So in the basic format, this is what it might look like. If we have 1 by x and if we have x equals to 1 by y, it's the same thing rearranged together. So the original picture, it has two different broken lines, meaning this line cannot be crossed. So similarly, since we have this x downstairs, it can be rearranged to write as y downstairs. We can have two different broken lines. They are known as asymptotes. So now there is a cool trick to remember what the asymptotes are. First of all, take what we have downstairs and make it equal to 0. So when you make x minus 1 equal to 0, it becomes x equals to 1. This is one of the asymptotes. So let me write this one of the asymptotes. So this is one of the asymptote, x equals to 1. Now for the other one, take the coefficient of x and take the coefficient of x downstairs and upstairs. So this is what we have, coefficient of x, coefficient of x. That makes it y equals to 2 by 1 or 2. So the other asymptote is going to be y equals to 2. So we have this value and we have this value. So we have the two asymptote. Now we know the two boomerang shape where they're going to be. So one of them, since they cut the x-axis and y-axis, is going to be this one. So we can draw one of the boomerang like this. It's this one. And the other one is this one. Always the opposite.
A fraction is made up of two integers, one upstairs and another downstairs. A rational function is made up of a fraction, but one polynomial upstairs and another polynomial downstairs. The shape that we get, it's a bit strange because it's not one smooth curve, it's two separate curves, but it represents one equation, and we call the shape hyperbola. The most basic rational function looks like y equals to 1 by x, and we have a vertical asymptote and a horizontal asymptote, and this is the hyperbola, this is the shape. What happens if we move from the right towards the left? The value increases. If we move from the left towards the right, the value decreases. Now what we need to do is find the equation of the vertical asymptote, and that means the asymptote of x. So cx plus d, let me call this d, equals to 0. Therefore x equals to minus d by c. That is the vertical asymptote. When we have the horizontal asymptote, that is going to be the coefficient of x upstairs and the coefficient of x downstairs, a by c. So we have both the vertical asymptote and the horizontal asymptote. The vertical asymptote is also known as asymptote of x, asymptote parallel to the y-axis, and the horizontal asymptote is also known as asymptote of y, asymptote parallel to the x-axis. Let's do a general sketch. When we have y equals to 5x minus 3 divided by twice x minus 4. The first thing we need to know is we need to know the asymptotes. It's a sketch. It doesn't have to be very accurate. We just need a rough idea what it's going to look like. So we have, if we write 2x minus 4 equals to 0, so therefore x equals to 4 by 2, which is 2. So we have the vertical asymptote, or the asymptote parallel to the y-axis. So let me call this is 2. So this is 2. Let's label this. This is x equals to 2. Now the horizontal asymptote, we have the coefficient of x upstairs is 5 and the coefficient of x downstairs is 2. 5 by 2 or 2.5. So let me call this 2.5 or 5 by 2. So this is the horizontal asymptote. So y equals to 5 by 2. Now we need the hyperbola. So first of all, let's find out where does it cut the x-axis and where does it cut the y-axis. So at x equals to 0, y equals to minus 3 by minus 4, which is 3 by 4. So it cuts the y-axis somewhere around here. 3 by 4. Let me write it 3 by 4. And it cuts the y-axis at x-axis at y equal to 0. So that turns out to be, so if this is 0, 2x minus 4 into 0 is 0. So we have 5x minus 3 equals to 0. Therefore, x equals to 3 by 5. So it turns out something like this. So 3 by 5. So let's draw the hyperbola. So one would be like this and the other would be in the opposite. Okay, let's do another example.